get into some transfer portal talk here.
Yeah.
Last week, we ran down some names that we might target. A lot of them we haven't really, or for whatever reason, not really visiting us or anything like that. We want to talk about players leaving. Jack Pyburn, he obviously entered the transfer portal earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
There was a list of demands from him that was released saying he wanted $45,000 a week. He wanted the starting job guaranteed. He wanted to be in on third downs. I don't really think it was that simple as, oh, if you don't give me this, I won't come back.
He also publicly disputed
He
that
say that. Not sure.
Just worth pointing out that he
I think it's more of a
that
wording thing.
The case. Yeah.
Maybe less demands and more of wants.
Actually, the only one he technically really said wasn't true was the thing about demanding to be the starter, because he said in his Instagram story that I'm already the starter. So
yeah. So
technically didn't say anything about the money demands or the snap demands. So
well, before he entered the portal and before he said and like the 4,500 number was released, I had heard he was getting offered $500,000 from other schools, mostly A&M, but which he's to me not worth $500,000.
He's a good player.
He's a
nice
good
guy to have.
Run stuffer.
He's not a guy you break the bank to keep around.
No. With someone with very limited pass rushing skills.
Bingo.
There's people in the portal you can go after that have better pass rushing and good run stuffing skills. Well, he had 2 sacks on the season. I think he had 1.5 maybe.
I either 1.5 or 2. It was not.
And for a starting edge rusher, that's just not really that good. I could see him actually working out pretty well at LSU. Because you line him up with Harold Perkins, who maybe makes a bit more mistakes, be a more explosive player. But then you have Pyburn, who is the more solid run stuffer. I think that can end up working well for them to solidify their defense. And then A&M, we already talked about them losing Gordon and Stewart. So I could see them just wanting to spend some money on a solid starter. Because I think their defense is... I really like Mike Elko. Really good defensive coordinator as well. And they have a lot of talent. But, based on what they're losing, their defense, it has to take a step back. It's like how Georgia's offense, they still have talent, but you lose Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, and it took a step back.
That's true. A&M is spending an NIL, though. So that's
they are.
They Scorton was a portal guy, so they could, portal a Scorton level replacement.
I don't think there's really a Scorton level player in the portal.
Maybe there's not, and maybe that's the problem. But I think they definitely are able to go after elite portal guys where they exist to replace the issues they have. They're really one of only 3 programs that's equipped to do that right now.
DJ Lagway is the greatest quarterback ever in the history of the multiverse.
It's hard to argue
100% agree, man. Undefeated as a starter. And games he finishes.
In games he needs a little bit of a caveat, but technically true.
So we look at QB position. Florida has had 2 players on visit. One got here today. Justin Martin from UCLA played a little bit for UCLA. He visited a couple days ago, I think the 11th and 12th. We're just looking for a backup QB here. They know what they're coming to do.
Yeah.
And Deshaun Purdy, this is very interesting. He's from Charlotte. He's receiving a ton of offers lately. He received an offer from Georgia, North Carolina with Bill Belichick. So I do wonder if he would come here to be the backup, because it seems like someone's going to offer him some money, even though he was the backup for Charlotte for most of the season.
Yeah, this is a tough position to fill in general. It's a very big need. You need to have a better backup option than Aiden Warner next year. But it is tough because it's a very specific kind of player you're targeting for this role. It's a guy
Jacob Zeno would have been a good.
Jacob Zeno would have been a good fit, but he might go start at A&M next year. Who knows? That's a more winnable job than this would be. So,
easily.
Because it's not even like you're just going. It's not even like what AJ Swan did when he transferred to LSU, where most people thought Garrett Nussmeier was going to be a 1-year starter and he could win the job the next year. DJ is going to be here for 2 more years at least, assuming he doesn't portal.
Did you just see that Michael Van Buren transferred to LSU?
Yeah, man. I don't really understand what they're doing at the quarterback. Their quarterback position, their quarterback room is one of the weirdest quarterback rooms in America.
Because, they're good. They've,
it's good players. It just doesn't – I don't get the vision. I don't know what the long-term plan is there.
Yeah. And then, Colin Hurley's a really young guy.
Which I've heard Colin Hurley, a guy who early enrolled, super early, was like 16
He's
when
2
he
years,
started.
yeah.
And I've heard he's just not like,
no.
I've heard he is very far away from being a guy you could start in an SEC game. So.
But then Swan, Van Buren, just weird.
Yeah, Ricky Collins left in the portal. No Bryce Underwood, obviously, as they expected they would have.
Yeah. And Michigan, wow, I can't believe they put so much play for Bryce Underwood. I mean, I get it, makes sense, but that's really what screwed up LSU. I think that's going to be the downfall of Brian Kelly.
Still finished with a good class, though, honestly. They lost a couple guys. They did a nice job. It could have been worse. Like, they kept picking around and stuff like that.
I just
don't... And flip Solomon Thomas.
Yeah, let's but okay, so let's go to our receivers. So this is the weirdest position to look at. Early on, it looked like Florida was looking at Nick Anderson a bunch.
Yeah.
But he scheduled visits with other schools, LSU, I know, and Ole Miss, I think, and Texas A&M. Not one with Florida, so we'll see. He was a name rumored that Florida would go after. Still time. He can still visit, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Jamichael Sturdivant, he was on a visit this weekend. UCLA guy. The production has dropped. Injuries, the offense being worse
this year.
Yeah, he had 800 yards in his first season, like 600 yards last year, and only 300 this year. I think he's a guy I would like. Big play threat as well. Depends if we're going after 2 or 3 receivers. Because early on, when we were looking at Sowell and Virgil, thought, oh, okay, the Gators are probably going to end up taking 3 receivers.
Mm-hmm.
But now one of them goes to Texas Tech, one goes to Iowa State. We talked about it earlier. Sturdivant didn't commit. He scheduled visits with Georgia and Miami, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see where that will go.
Yeah, this is the one where I'm not panicking. I'm getting a little bit anxious about the receiver position because it is so key. Like, I understand what you guys are saying about Lagway. Like, he'll elevate the players around him. I agree with that, but he's still a young quarterback that has areas he needs to develop in. And I think putting talent around him is going to be so key to that development. And I don't know if you can rely on Aiden Mizell. I don't know if you can trust that Trey Wilson's going to stay healthy. And we'll see if a guy like Vernell Brown can contribute day one, but I don't think you can assume that.
No.
So, like, if I don't think you can go into the spring without addressing it. I don't think you can hope that guys that are on current playoff teams are going to enter and you're going to get them. I think you need to at least get someone like soon. Hopefully it started on.
Rob, I think Rashada's leaving Georgia.
I mean, pretty clearly they put an extremely injured Carson Beck in to hand the ball off instead of him.
I'd be pretty shocked if Rashada is still at Georgia now after this season. So, but yeah, we gotta see. I mean, it's hard to tell with the transfer portal. It's hard to tell with college football these days. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Today we think we're getting nobody. Tomorrow, Jeremiah Smith's in the portal. But no, you know what I mean, though. It's really hard to tell. Tight end, we don't have anybody scheduled for visits. Losing Arliss Boardingham, we lost a couple tight ends, only bringing one. I would figure they want to go get a tight end who's a bit proven.
You need it. Like, that's a big position to need, I think, without Arliss. Because I think Arliss leaving was a little bit – I mean, I'm not surprising, but, like, you would think they would want to keep Arliss around.
Not really good blocking. Didn't really do much through the air either. Well, I think if the plan was to go into portal and get somebody, then it's like, okay, buy Arliss.
Yeah.
But we haven't really seen anybody get visits scheduled or talking to them.
Yeah.
Like Lou Haas, he committed to Ole Miss from Arkansas. He would have been a big name to go after. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Like, I want us to get somebody. I want us to get somebody good, obviously. But maybe
it's weird for how much 12 personnel we run that, like, it really hasn't been a position where we've been able to develop guys. I mean, Hayden Hansen is a good player, but he's a one-trick pony. And we need someone who can stretch the field a bit.
Someone I'm looking at, Amir Jackson, true freshman. He's like the 99th ranked player, tight end. Can't burn the red shirt, or he can't burn the red shirt because of the bowl game. I wonder if he'll get a bunch of playing time in this bowl game because Arliss is in the portal. I assume we'll see a good bit of him. maybe he's the guy. They know he's the guy, and that's why they're not really targeting portal tight ends.
Yeah, because you got Micah Jones coming in, but I don't think Micah Jones is going to be an instant impact player.
And he's not really a receiving threat. He's more of a blocking tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look at the offensive line. The one name I've really been hearing the most is Howard Sampson, North Carolina. He was a starting offensive tackle for North Carolina. I haven't really heard anything about the Georgia Tech Corey. Why can't I think of his name? Robinson, Corey Robinson. That's okay. Right. I haven't heard about his name much for really anybody. So I would still like for us to go for him. I think he's the best offensive lineman in the portal. But, I mean, the only name I think we've offered is Howard Sampson. Mm-hmm. I think we are limited in spots. I think at most we're probably looking at 10 portal players.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand not just offering everybody. But, yeah, I mean, I would like to see us maybe go after some bigger time names, but
it feels like we've been a little bit slow on the jump again, which is disappointing because first of all, that's kind of been an issue the past couple of years. And also, the whole narrative was you're going to use this Billy buyout money to go crazy in NIL and the portal. And I'm not saying they won't do that, but once again, we're doing the thing where we're very slow to offer, slow to host, and we're about to leave for a week to go to Tampa and won't be able to host.
Well, talking about money, getting to the defensive line, Keyshawn Silver visited Florida for 3 days. He was only scheduled for 2. Canceled his Miami visit, so I think they're out of it.
Yeah.
Went to USC. He left USC, and USC, earlier today, offered a different nose tackle from Abilene Christian.
Yeah.
So that's probably a decent sign that he's not going to USC. So it seems like it's a battle between us and Michigan. Mm-hmm. Which I really like because I don't think it makes sense for Michigan to go spend a 1-year rental, this amount of money on a 1-year rental.
Before spending so much money on so many other players.
Well, and considering that this isn't their their big year with Bryce Underwood.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're probably waiting until Bryce Underwood is going to be their starter to go spend those money on 1- and 2-year players.
I don't even think Underwood's necessarily going to start this year. It looks like they're going to get, if he hasn't committed already, it looks like they're going to get Billy Edwards, who started.
I think they did get him.
Did they get him? Okay, I saw projections. I didn't know if he actually did.
I think they did. But so I feel, obviously, I'm not 100% confident we do get Silver. I think he visited yesterday. So I think if it was just those visits, I would assume he commits within the next week, which would be a huge get for the Gators. We're probably talking about $700,000-ish for him. Early numbers were $1 million, but I've heard that they've really backed off that. That was just his agent trying to spread some stuff out to up his value, but no one really bid for that. So Gators are in a decent spot to land him, I think. Wisconsin transfer James Thompson, injured for most of this year. Before the season, though, he had good NFL draft buzz. So this is a guy with a pretty high upside, some production, a bit injured this year. We'll see if we get him on a visit. I always want to beef up that defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't complain. Not a nose tackle, kind of like that Caleb Banks-ish role right there for him. So I think it would be a really good add to the team. I mean, if that defensive line, get Silver, get James Thompson. I mean, just continue doing what we did this year.
Yeah, going back to Silver, I think I would say of the names that Florida's been tied to publicly, that is the most important guy you got to get on that board. Former 5-star, really talented player. Hasn't not uber productive so far in his career, but
that's a nose tackle. Nose tackles don't really have
exactly. Yeah. That is true. That's a good point.
One other thing I'd like to point out: Keyshawn Silver once committed to Florida, so he has ties back here.
Yeah, I think I think that would be such an important get to shore up the defensive line and ensure that you don't see major regression there next year at least from what we were seeing at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely would. And I think he's a more from a down to down base. It's not that Cam Jackson more explosive probably, but I think Silver in the run game is probably better at filling the gaps there and allowing the players. I mean, Cam Jackson's really good. He might get drafted. Forgot to mention him earlier. Another player that could get drafted.
So there are guys, George, that are playing in bowl games that have entered the portal. Like Arizona's, like Kenny Dillingham literally said, you can enter the portal and still participate in the playoffs for us. Like there are definitely guys that are doing both, just to be clear.
Yeah. So then get back to Rob. Who are we going for as pass rushers? So we already lost Pyburn. Don't think he's coming back. Maybe he does. We'll see what happens. Seems like Searcy's also going to be entering the portal. Maybe after the bowl game, we'll see. A name that we've talked to, Nathan Johnson. He's an edge rusher from Appalachian State. He's also been looking at USC. So pretty highly touted guy there. That's probably the biggest name so far we're looking at. Well, edge rushers haven't really had many big names enter the portal. We talked about it last week. Deshaun Womack is probably the biggest name in the portal, and it's an unproven guy right there. So I think we're going to need to wait and see who enters in the next coming weeks. But Nathan Johnson, he's the guy I really look at right now.
Yeah, a guy I'm not really sure because he had a really nice 2023 season. Was a first-team freshman All-American that year. Like I don't really know why the production dropped off as much this year. He still played in 11 games, but only had 2.5 sacks. So yeah, but like you said, it's really just not the strength of the portal right now.
App State, the program was in a weird spot this year.
Yeah, this was a bad year in general, and they fired.
Yeah,
so that might be about
a culture thing
bigger than him.
Yeah. So we'll see. But if he's getting targets by Southern Cal as well, so it's not just like a player only Florida's looking at this level. So I mean, just say South Florida, Southern California. Sorry, but so yeah, that's a name to look at. So then at cornerback, from JUCO. That's the current name I'm hearing about. Jaden Lawton, out of a JUCO school. Don't really know too much about him. The bigger name maybe to look at is Takaria Davis. He was a projected first-round pick going into the year for Arizona. We saw how badly things went for Arizona this year. So, but I think he's a player, high upside player still. I think he's going to be getting a lot of offers from high-level programs. And I don't know if they're going to spend that money on a corner. They'd probably rather get another guy that can compete instead of like a number one corner. I wish we went after him.
Yeah.
Because I know how good he is. 2-time first-team all-conference player. Did it in the Big 12 and Pac-12. So he's someone I would love for us to go after, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'd like to see us get a starting caliber corner, at least one. I mean, I think like losing Jakeem kind of sucked. I mean, I get it for him. He didn't get the playing time this year necessarily. I think he would have seen a lot more playing time.
He was hurt this year.
Yeah, I mean, he was hurt, and like I don't know how much. I mean, was he playing a ton before he got hurt?
Yeah, he started week 1.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, like,
play.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I mean, yeah, like I guess it just didn't work out, is what I should say. But it's a bummer because I think he would have had a major role next year, and he's going to start for LSU next year. He committed to LSU.
The thing with Jackson, he's still very raw. You see him get burnt and cooked in coverages a bit, which is fine for a talented player, but he's going into year 3 now. And at that point, I don't know his injury deal. Yeah, I mean, I assume he means Jakeem, but was barbecue chicken not a big loss? I think we can definitely replace.
Man.
I mean,
Cormani was even worse.
Well, yeah, but we're probably not looking at Cormani starting.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at Dijon Johnson, Devin
Moore. I don't think dude, I put zero faith in Devin Moore's health. I really, truly don't.
That's a fair point. I mean,
I think he's a great player when he's on the field. It just, he can't, like, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. Yep. And I think if you don't have a guy who you feel comfortable playing in place of him, I think you're going to find yourself in a bad situation next year, potentially.
Definitely. But then we look at safety. We both said this is probably the most important position. Zachariah Poyser visited this week. He's visited Georgia, LSU, and Auburn. He commits on Wednesday. Florida was the only place where he visited for multiple days. He's from Florida. He's talked about if he were to come to Florida, he would play multiple positions here. So he can play safety, star, maybe corner if we need.
Sort of in like the Bridges mold, kind of. That's
where I was going. Yeah. The Bridges mold, very young, redshirt freshman player this year. I think he'd be a great add for the team. As I said, he commits on Wednesday. So I think this would be a really good start to the class, excluding the punter that's committed to us. But at Mose Phillips from Virginia Tech, another safety I've heard to look at. Maybe we'll go after. I do think we need more of a true safety as well. I mean, I think Poyser can be a really good safety, but if we're looking to play him all around the field, then we definitely need to get a guy who can just play safety and really stir up that room.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I think, and it should be a position where you're able to land someone like that, because it's, I think, pretty clearly you're going to come in and start. Even if Bryce Thornton like takes a massive step in the offseason, I still think one of those spots is going to be up for grabs.
I still wouldn't rule out Castell. Like, we both hated on him a ton.
Yeah, we've been very mean to Jordan Castell.
Everyone knows about the sophomore slump, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe he steps it up next year, another year under Will Harris, who we both probably agree is a really good coach.
Yeah, he's done a good job.
I'll give him the credit there. I mean, I want us to get 2 different safeties though, but I won't say if Castell is starting, then it's game over. But Rob,
sorry, just real quick. I just think we got a little bit, like, I think there was a lot of the success down the stretch defensively was kind of in spite of some bad play in the secondary, like guys getting beat. We were able to overcome it. I don't think if you want to feel good that you're going to take a leap next year, I think you have to find ways to improve those things where we were still struggling quite a bit down the stretch.
Yeah, you definitely do. No question really about it.
I mean, Cormani made one play. He made a singular play
against the third string QB for Kentucky.
Like, when he wasn't doing that, he was getting absolutely toasted.
I mean, Texas has good receivers, but still,
they do. Like, but it was bad. Even didn't he get toasted? He got beat pretty bad in the Kentucky game. Wasn't there like a drop on a beat in the Kentucky game?
No, we talked about it last week because you also said this.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I don't think he did.
Okay.
But I don't believe he did. Let's hope that this next week we see maybe some players commit to Florida in the portal. Definitely need to see things turn up, but again, it only looks like we're probably going to be attaining 10 portal players. So we can be a little bit more picky. But we also can't just be too picky to where, they didn't enter the portal. Well, now we're screwed, you know?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry just yet. I'll keep it in the back of my mind. But then if we're looking at a couple weeks, then maybe it's time to hit that panic button and start questioning what is Billy doing.
I agree. I think give it some time, see what happens. The thing that causes me concern is that they're about to leave for Tampa in a week, and their opportunity for a week, and their opportunity to host guys on campus is going to be gone during a really crucial. That's why this early bowl really is unfortunate, to be honest. Yep. Like if we had a New Year's bowl, that would be a lot nicer in that regard. So it is just kind of a limitation we're dealing with. So I'd like to see us get some momentum before that, so we're not just playing catch up when we get back from Tampa.
Yeah, another thing we forgot to talk about, Damian George. He enters the portal and decides to come back to Florida. So that's weird. It was one day, right?
Yeah, it was. If not, it was like 2. It was a short.
Yeah. So I wonder what happened there. Maybe he just wanted more money. I think that's a solid keep. You know, Well, we saw DeAndre Robinson. He did an interview, and they asked him like, "Who's the toughest matchup 1-on-1?" And he said the 2 toughest matchups were Roderick Kearney and Kajai Harris, 2 young guards. Harris already starts at left guard. Kearney would have been competing for that right guard spot. So it is interesting to see that the young right guards are stepping up over George. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Do you think Levette could compete for that job next year? Like, do you think George? Like, I think George is not guaranteed to win that job.
Well,
here.
I
would say he probably will. I'm not even saying he didn't. I just think those young guys are coming along to the extent that I'm not just completely penciling it in that he doesn't get beat out in the spring and fall.
The Jags lost 32-25.
They scored the Jets. I didn't really see how it ended. The Jets scored to retake the lead, and last I saw it was 25-22. Mac Jones threw a bad pick at the end to Sauce Gardner. That's all.
Wow. Okay, but yeah, I think George will start. I honestly like it for the depth because if someone gets hurt, we saw George miss the FSU game and the Texas game. I don't know if he's playing the bowl game, and we won't get an injury report because it's on SEC matchup. But I like George at guard, especially. And now we have a really good 3 deep at guard. So it's more interesting about what's going to happen at tackle. If it's going to be a transfer, if it's going to end up being one of the young guys we have in Fletcher Westfall or Caden Jones, Marcus Maskell, and I assume Barber will return.
And to be clear, like, even though I think it's like maybe a possibility George could get beat out, anybody with the name George must be good. There we go, George. But no, I think like even though I'm saying like I think there's like maybe a chance he gets beat out, I'm not saying him coming back is not a very good thing, because at the end of the day, it's hard to portal quality offensive.
It is.
They had a pretty good hit with Crenshaw Dixon that worked out pretty well. Haven't had a lot of great hits. What?
The year before when we got the guy from Baylor.
Oh, Micah Miskua,
yeah, was rated like the top guard in the transfer portal. I think he was pretty bad or underwhelming for where they had him ranked.
And Osiris is a little bit different because they knew.
Yeah, he was an All-American when he came here.
And they like knew him, like they were with him, coaching him. So it's not like there was no like gamble there. They knew exactly what they were getting. It's hard to find those guys. So I would say it's nice to have him back and that you're having those young guys compete with him instead of some random transfer that may or may not be good enough to start in the SEC.
Absolutely.